What if I told you there's a phone coming with a next-generation 2-nanometer Snapdragon chip, a massive 10,000 milliamp hour battery, and flagship-level specs for potentially under $700? That sounds like one of those fake concept phones people post online, but according to new reports, Honor might actually pull it off with the upcoming Honor Win 2 series. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps me keep bringing you more tech breakdowns like this one. And honestly, this is the kind of phone that makes you question what we've accepted as normal in the smartphone market. Because for years, brands have convinced people that a premium phone has to come with compromises. You want top performance? Fine, but battery life suffers. You want great battery life? Then expect a bulky mid-range device. And if you want both, get ready to spend over $1,000. That's why the Honor Win series is getting so much attention, even outside China. The original Honor Win phones already pushed things into crazy territory. They launched with a huge 10,000 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery, which is basically double what you get in most flagship phones today. And somehow, Honor still managed to keep the phones relatively slim at around 8.3 millimeters thick. Think about that for a second. Most flagship phones today sit around 5,000 milliamp hours, maybe slightly more. Meanwhile, Honor is out here casually putting 5-digit battery capacities into phones that still look modern. And the upcoming Win 2 series sounds even more ambitious. The biggest headline is the rumored Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6. That's Qualcomm's next major flagship processor, reportedly built on a cutting-edge 2-nanometer process. Smaller process, better efficiency, better performance, and potentially much better thermal management. So now imagine combining that with a 10,000 milliamp hour battery. You're basically looking at a phone that could deliver insane battery life while still handling heavy gaming, multitasking, and AI features without slowing down. And apparently, Honor may even include an internal cooling fan. That's something we usually see in hardcore gaming phones, not mainstream flagship-style devices. If true, it means Honor is taking sustained performance seriously, not just benchmark numbers. The original Win phones were already pretty stacked when it came to specs. They featured a 6.83-inch 1.5K LTPS OLED display with a 185 Hz refresh rate. And yes, 185 Hz. That's actually higher than the 165 Hz panels we've seen on some gaming-focused devices like recent OnePlus phones. So Honor clearly isn't building these devices as simple battery monsters. They're trying to make full-on enthusiast phones. The standard Honor Win used the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chip, while the Honor RT used the older Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. Both supported LPDDR5X RAM and UFS 4.1 storage, which is faster than the UFS 4.0 storage still used in some ultra-premium phones today. That part is honestly kind of wild when you think about it. You've got phones like the Galaxy S26 Ultra costing around $1,300, and then these China-exclusive devices show up offering better battery specs, faster storage standards, gaming-focused cooling, and ultra-high refresh rates for almost half the price. Of course, there's a catch. These phones are expected to remain China-exclusive, at least initially, and that's where the walk the walk part comes in. A lot of tech enthusiasts love talking about these incredible China-only phones online. Every year, people say things like, "This destroys Samsung," or "Why can't Apple do this?" But when it's actually time to buy a phone, most people still end up choosing an iPhone or a Galaxy because they're easier to purchase, easier to service, and fully optimized for local markets. Importing phones is still a niche thing. You have to deal with software differences, warranty limitations, possible network compatibility issues, and sometimes missing Google services depending on the device. So while these phones look amazing on paper, they're not always practical for everyone. Still, the existence of phones like the Honor Win 2 matters a lot because they put pressure on the entire industry. When consumers start seeing devices with 10,000 milliamp hour batteries and flagship chips at relatively affordable prices, suddenly it becomes harder for mainstream brands to justify tiny battery upgrades every year. And honestly, battery life is still one of the biggest frustrations people have with smartphones today. Cameras are already great, displays are already amazing, performance is already overkill for most users, but people still constantly carry chargers and power banks. That's why phones like this generate so much excitement. Now, pricing is where things get interesting. The original Honor Win series reportedly started around $385 for the Honor RT and about $570 for the standard Win model. But with the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 6 expected to cost more, plus rising RAM prices, the new Win 2 could land somewhere near $700. Even then, if Honor actually delivers these specs at that price, it could still end up being one of the most aggressive flagship-style phones we've seen in years. And honestly, I think that's the bigger story here. Not just the giant battery, not just the new chip, but the fact that some brands are starting to challenge the idea that flagship phones have to be ultra expensive while still making compromises. Because once people see what's possible, expectations start changing fast. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments section. See you in the next video. Take care.